See who spins around here. Good evening, everyone. This is April Tribe Juke along here with Frank, and we are broadcasting live from Kyle, Texas. And Frank, where are you broadcasting live from
I
tonight?
am north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All
About
right.
almost in Ohio, but I'm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, and almost so that's way up there. Well, way to go.
Yes.
So we've got ourselves a span across the US today, and we pray that everyone will be able to join in, pop in here live. So if you are here, please put down where you're from or you're watching it from so that we can, spread the good news and whatever. We have a great gift tonight for those that are participating. For the top person that makes comments, participates, and shares, you get a free copy of Out of Darkness tonight, and we will get the details from you a little bit later on and ship it out to you by the weekend. So we're really excited to have Dr. Frank with us tonight. He's going to share a little bit about himself and why he is here. So Frank, go ahead.
Okay, so just a little bit about myself. I've been in corporate America for over 4 decades. My wife and I have been together for 41 years. We have 2 grown daughters, 6 grandchildren, and my eldest granddaughter just graduated high school and she's off to college. So that's the real short. So I've been in corporate America. I've had many types of positions. So that's sort of the background for me.
Okay, and what kind of things do you do in with corporate America? What are you doing?
My current job is sort of like a project manager slash internal controls. But so and we develop some software. We do a variety of different things, but that's basically what I do.
Nice, excellent. So that's not all that you do.
No.
You are an author and you've
Yeah,
written an amazing book. You want to hold it up there for all
I
of
do.
us? Okay, this is Two Are Better Than One. And share a little bit about how this came about. I mean, you're corporate America, you're doing projects, you're doing a whole bunch of different things. What would bring you to write a book?
Well, the main part behind it was I was having dinner one time. We were in a meeting, and I was having right after the meeting, we were having dinner. There's a bunch of folks. I was just chatting, and I said I wanted to put together or put down on paper the things that I've learned, so that my grandchildren, which range a wide range from she's almost 19 now down to a few years old, could maybe look back onto some of the things that I've learned, so that they don't have to repeat some of the failures. And so it started off as being actually nonfiction. And then I changed it to fiction so that it became a very readable, because I like to tell stories a lot. When I talk to folks, when I get real comfortable, I tell a lot of stories. And so I switched it quickly to a fiction book. Everything in the book happened in one manner or another. Either I observed it or it happened to me. And every story is a compilation of maybe multiple stories, so that made it fun and easy to read. So
That
that's
is
how that came out.
awesome.
Yes.
I love how you've melted so many aspects of your experiences, your storytelling, and to make that mold into one story. That's really crafty. That's
Yeah.
somebody who really understands how to put a story together. So with it in that fictional setting, you say it's easier to read about, but what is the bulk of the story? I mean, the title says two are better than one. So what does that lead us into understanding?
Well, it's all about relationships. That's literally all it's about. And so it's from Ecclesiastes is the text verse where two are better than one, but it's more than a husband wife sibling relationship. It's more than that. The ultimate goal is a relationship with the Lord. And so that is the ultimate goal with it. And so I have a very lofty goal with the book, and the goal is to reach 250,000 with the love of Christ. I mean, that's seriously the intent of the book. And the secondary part of the book, which makes it kind of fun, is outside of what I do. Um, I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for many years, professional photographer, and so literally these pictures are mine. So you'll see the back pictures of them, and the cover of why it's important. And I'll get to the other secondary part of that. Why what it's about? It's all about relationships. It's about the fact is that we can learn in from many other people, whether it be younger than us. And that's what the book takes you through. So you have two characters, Michael and Abby are in a book. They're the main characters. Michael realizes he's overworked, but doesn't want to admit it. That's typically the way life is as a guy. And what happens is he encounters a variety of different people in the book, teenagers, much older, much older. So you have people that are in their teens all the way up until their 80s that are giving him life advice and also giving Abby life advice through the book. And it reads fast. Many chapters are very short because I'm one of those ones where I'm going to get to the point really quick. And maybe I should have put more detail into it as far as the emotional side. But it was all based on literally the things that I learned over decades of working.
Wow.
So that's where it came from. And I make a cameo appearance in the book as Dr. Frank, the photographer. So it's kind of cute. There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of my corny humor in it. But the goal through it is that I really want to emphasize is that you learn from other people in your life. Many people will say that they are self-made or they are self-taught. I don't believe it. I don't subscribe to that. I've learned from many people, from the books I've read, from talking to people like you. I mean, all the people we've met in workshops and in podcasts and so on and so forth. And that's what's all in the book is the things that I learned are in there. And there's basically 8 steps. The original book was, you know, the 7 D's to success, and then I threw an 8th one in there, and the 8th one was don't quit, and that really wasn't going anywhere. So so that I changed it to 2 are better than 1. And my wife and I, we had talked about it, so we came up with 2 are better than 1, and we added a subtitle of "Don't do this thing called life alone." And when most people read it or see the title, they think it's all about just spousal relationships or siblings or something like that. But that isn't it. It's a don't walk through this life without God. I mean, you can't go through, and that's what the whole book really comes to at the very end of the book. And the ultimate sacrifice in the book, I tear up every time I think about it, is a character that shows up out of nowhere. He's a character that many, when they would see him, would brush him off that he shouldn't be there. Long, scraggly hair, just shows up at a party, doesn't belong there. But he's the pivot of the whole book. I still get chills when I think about it because I know you asked why, but it's all about relationship. It's all about it. And I'll tell you this because you as an author, and many times we talk, is the book was sent off to the editor. I sent it off to one of the folks, and there was a section of the book that wasn't in it when I sent it off, and I couldn't sleep. I literally couldn't sleep. And the Lord just kept putting it on my heart. The book isn't done. And I wrote all these chapters out when I come back, and I didn't send it back off the editor. I just edited it myself, and we sent it off to print. And everybody that reads it, I asked them, or many people I know, I said, if those 3 chapters or 4 chapters really aren't in there, would the book be okay? And they said, no, those make it. And they make it because of the character that comes in that performs the ultimate sacrifice. And so
Wow.
that's what it's about. It's about the relationships and what you gain from other people.
Right.
So that's the key part.
That it's really key to understand that as humans, as humanity, we are built to connect. We are built socially, emotionally, in our family settings. Everything is to connect with other people. And some people say, oh, well, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. And I'm like, sorry, you're human and you need connections. Now, some people like more connections than others, but the concept and the idea is that we really need each other. And just like any good family, our Heavenly Father up there, He wants His children, His family, all of us to become brothers and sisters, and that understanding of to treat and love one another in such a way that it builds more relationships and more connections. This week, I've been talking a lot with my groups about networking and the importance that networking is, especially when you are trying to leave situations that are in abuse, that are in neglect, that are in real ill health. Now, it's not because one person is doing, is evil and the other one is amazing and an angel. It's more about when the actions are happening that are unacceptable, you leave the situation. Now, you still pray for, hope for, and, want that other person to be encompassed by right people that can help them through their relationship building journey and learning how to come into one that can really help them the most. The other side of the networking is to learn how to become safe, watch and observe healthy relationships, understand that there is so much more. And then the two can be helped, usually not together anymore, but that is okay because there's still hope out there. And I'm sure with the characters within your book and how things flow, there are times where the connections might be strained and then they learn how to strengthen them. And
Mhm.
there's other times where, some people, they may not just fit, but
Mhm.
they may fit with others. So like
Mhm.
you said at the end of your book, you've got this character, right, that's coming in and maybe doesn't feel like he belongs there, or the people who see him at this party don't feel like he should be
Mhm.
there. But ultimately, when we can accept and love each other, I mean, that's really what all of this is
Mhm.
about. And I love what Lori says here. I'm assuming she's referring back to that character that shows up at the end of the book, right? It's
Mhm.
like a turtle on the fence. He didn't get there on his
Mhm.
own. There is so much in how these things come about. Now, I understand that you're kind of the face of this book, but what input did your wife have in telling of this story?
She actually had quite a bit. She read it almost as many times as I did. To the point is, um, she knew it with intimate detail, and we
Mm,
would go back and forth on certain things because the development of the book was I wanted to ensure that it was written from a guy's perspective, and so we would go back and forth. I'd write a chapter, and she'd be very open with it. We've been together for 4 decades, so that's just the way we
so she
are.
can.
And so, and she would say that it'd be really bad or whatever, and so I'd come back with it, and then somewhere along the line, we realized that we couldn't change the way the feeling was in the senses that it couldn't come. I don't want to sound wrong. Is it couldn't come from a female perspective because it was a guy telling this. There's a guy telling the story, in the sense is that Michael is living it out, and although he runs into both male and female, and Abby, his wife, comes into it, the main part about it is that too often we as guys, I can only speak as guys, is we will shut down even when confronted with the truth. And so Michael is
Mhm.
immediately confronted with the truth because he's working too much. Him and Abby has a fight, and he takes off, driving away at an insane speed. And he wakes up in an area he has no idea how he got there. And he's confronted with the opening scene, and I'll say this: if you open it up, even with being the Kindle or whatever you have, there's an opening scene. He's confronting actually an officer, so it's kind of interesting. But the officer turns out to be his ally, whereas and that's not the way. And so this was written well over a year ago, and many characters in the book are of color and everything. It's just that, and I wrote it was written over a year ago, and so the point of it is that Michael is confronted with things that he could do one of two things immediately in the book. He could either stop and listen to what Officer Dan, that's the main protagonist in the book. I'm going to say he's in beginning, and then throughout time, there's another one that shows up. Or he could listen to his inner self saying, "I'm just going to go back to doing what I do," and that would be shut down and go back to
Mhm.
nothing really. And
Right.
he listens to him, and the very first character that he sees or runs into, other than Officer Dan, is Officer Dan's mom. And so I'm going to tell you
Mm,
this of the book because it's so interesting of it. So his mom's name is, we call her, Nana in there, and the other was Grandma. But the character is actually based a lot on my mom, the way she goes about busying herself and things like that. I'm telling you, mom. And there's a character called Grandma, which is actually a lot of it is based upon my wife, who we in real life call Nana. Okay, so you got to kind
oh,
of put the two together. So I flipped and
okay.
just thought it was. They're compilations. They're not exacts, but that's just the way
Sure.
things are. Um, Officer Dan's mom has a little diner. She handles everything with food. I came from
Got
an
it.
Italian background. Everything was food.
Hey,
So
Nora.
and so that's the way that's presented. But she shows up immediately. She tells him something. I won't give it away, but she tells him something that really stops him to think, which causes him to go to the next step. He runs into various characters in the book that really get him to stop and think. There's we do a lot of I do a lot of playing on words and a playing on biblical characters, like Gabriel shows up, okay, in the senses, but it's not really Gabriel the angel, but he appears because you'd have to sit
Okay.
in. As a photographer, I know how to play with light and all that kind of stuff. But the
Got it.
other point about it is this, and this is the most important thing. If you go through the book and you take notes, and you really take notes through the book, you're going to come up with 8 ways to actually succeed in where you're going. But the main
Mm,
premise behind a book, literally the main premise behind a book is that, are you living a life that God put you on the earth to live? Or are you living a life that somebody else believes that you should live, or you believe you should live because somebody else's expectations for you?
mm,
And that was
right.
the premise behind the original part of the book that was going to be nonfiction. And so I throw that in there. There's little pieces of chapters in there, and won't give a lot away, but every character, literally every character, is a compilation of people that I know or ran into. And again, I won't give away, but if somebody reads it, they're going to know. Like, I'll give you one example. Years ago, I used to preach to the incarcerated, and I was having a very hard time in life at one time because I'd seriously hurt my back. I was barely able to walk and things like that. So I was in a grocery store, and I actually put this story in the book. The reason I'm telling it is because this is how the Lord will come into your life when you need it the most. But I'm in a grocery store. I'm very depressed because I could barely walk. And a guy comes up to me and he says, "Do you remember me?" And I said, I just like, yes, I'm very depressed. I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't remember you. Well, a few years ago, you were in the prison, you're speaking, and now I'm out, and this girlfriend, we're getting married, and my life has changed because we said all this kind of. Well, I floated out the grocery store. I literally floated out the grocery store, and there's a little piece of that in the book, but not like that. But it's brought into a character, how the characters come together. Because I
Mm,
told it everything is just me, then it would be actually be kind of boring. But you throw all these different characters in, and it makes it fun and laughable. And I put a lot of my corniness type of humor in it. But the main part about the cover of this book, the reason again I'll keep showing it, is this
yeah.
was actually, this is me. This here, that's right there, that's
Okay.
me.
Okay.
And that silhouette, and it was it was a picture we took. I was sitting there, I just come out of a meeting. I was in Tennessee, and I was trying to decide, what do I want to do with life? Okay, the book was partially written, but not fully written, and I was trying to make some decisions. And I went home and we totally changed it to fiction. We redid it really quick. In a sense, is that I knew exactly the direction that the Lord wanted me to go with the book. I mean, I knew
Mm,
it. I knew exactly where I wanted to go with the book, and that's why that had to be on the cover. I just had to do it that way. And and then so the back part of the book is actually, it's hard to see from here, but you'll see that there's, I don't know if you can see it, two chairs. Two are better
yeah.
than one.
Okay.
And so those are actually from the same place. So that's on the opposite side of where I was sitting. It actually wraps around. There was 2 chairs that were sitting there. And that's why it's so important. But not always are those 2 chairs you and a sibling or a spouse or whomever. That's you and the Lord sitting there waiting. Hey, I'm here for you. I can walk alongside you in life. I will carry you along, but you have to be willing to come with me. And that's all about the relationships. That's the part about getting vision. That's the part about getting hope.
Yeah.
And the character that shows up, I won't give it away, but the character that shows up, that's what he gives. But he gives it unexpectedly to where
Mhm.
nobody is able to see. And that's what he tells Michael. He tells Michael when he has him off to himself, he tells Michael that that's what he's basically given. I won't give it away, but that point is the main part about it. The secondary part about relationships and hope in that is that we're not in this thing called life alone. We
Mm,
we we really aren't. And I see a lot of where people struggle with it. And there are times that I look back in on my
mm,
life and I say, you get to do things because sometimes it's easier. Because there's an old quote that I say too often, but it is one. It says, when all is said and done, there's more said than done, because people will
that's
let you down.
true. Yeah.
Not usually on purpose, but
Right.
they do. And I know that one discussion, um, yes, isn't it awesome how he does this for us? Yes, it is so true. And there's so many times I go through with different things in life, and I look back of things you have to kind of trust. And I know that one in our discussion back in like some questions we had talked about was how do you gain trust, or how do you learn, you know if the person's truthful with you. And the best
Right.
way to do it is just to observe and look at him. And that's
Hmm.
really what the book is trying to do. Although the encounters that Michael and Abby are having are quick, because this happens over a weekend, an extended
Okay.
weekend, is but they're observing what other people are doing and have done. But there's a secondary part about it. Abby has two choices to make very early in the book. She runs into a friend of hers, and I won't give it away, but her friend, all she does is throw negativity into Abby's mind. And she could either believe it
Hmm.
or ignore it. And she goes off to see the lady she calls Grandma. And Grandma is straight up with her. You got to read it. There's straight up kind of things on it. Is she's straight up with her. But the most important thing that she's trying to tell her is be wary of your friends, because they might not be your friends.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
That's very, very true. There's so many reasons that we really have to observe. And that's actually one of the very first things I talked about today with the networking. Observe who you can trust, because their actions are what will speak louder than the words.
Mhm.
I want to address this. I find it really, really hopeful that as a guy, you put this together as the guy's perspective in a way that, guys will read it. And it's encouraging, it's hopeful. I feel like in today's world there's so much against the guys, so much
Mhm.
against fathers, so much against just men in general. And you know saying that from somebody who has fled from situations that, yeah, he caused a lot of the challenges, but the embracing piece of this is it's not one against another,
Mhm.
it's all together with God.
Mhm.
And so, in your perspective on all of this, um, through the book, it sounds like it's going to be something that will be a quick read, but something
Mhm.
that can really impact. So, hey, I know Father's Day is kind of come and gone, but there's still time and we're all home. So let's
Yeah.
get this book out and have our dads read it, and have our husbands and boyfriends, anyone else out there to take a look at it, because it's so important to know, hey, other people out there could possibly understand what you're going through, what the perspective
Mhm.
is. So let's hold that book up again, show everybody what the cover is, what it'll look like. Two are better than one. And I understand that you are in the nomination for the voting for Author Academy Awards.
Mhm.
You That book is in the advice category. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And that advice category is on the very first page. So,
Yes.
one out of the 16 pages, 16 topics, take a look for that book, the blue with the yellow underneath, two are better than one, and click on it. Let's get him some votes. Let's get him really, ramped up there to be in that top 10, because with awards and things like that for books, it just helps to spread the message
Mhm.
even more. And you have a big message,
Yeah.
250,000 of these books to be sold. Think about all of that light, all of that possibility. I bet some healing can even happen.
Mhm.
And because it's with the guy's perspective, it's, I call it, I really call it this male magic. And I think it's because of being in the classroom for over 18 years, teaching as a teacher, teaching a lot of boys, a lot of girls, a lot of youth, um, even raising my own 5 kids my 5 boys out of the 9 that I have, 4 girls, 5 boys. The whole concept is when a guy walks into the room, there's just like, they just get it. Guy to guy,
Mhm.
man to boy, they just kind of do this, and they get it.
Mhm.
And I can sit there blue in the face and go, how they just got it. And so this is exciting for me. Something else that I can help offer to some of the guys that we work with, to say, you know what, this might be one of those perspectives
Mhm.
without having to, kind of dig through all of the women's work. This is right here with some corny humor, something fun to read, and just gives a light. Now it's not just for the guys to read, obviously, because your
Mm.
wife had some great input on this,
Yes.
but it's just something, I want to say the word refreshing, to know that we've got some people on the guys team, because everyone's important. I really believe in
Mhm.
the strength of the entirety of family. And
Mhm.
so if we can strengthen both sides and not pit each other against each other, but really within that love and harmony, I mean, wow, so many of the ills of this world drop away. And
Yes.
when you're with Christ, with that as the family, I know Lori had mentioned, when the three are entwined together, it's so much stronger. So that's fantastic. Would you like to kind of leave us with something of your last words before we close this down?
Yes. And so it's a it's a very fast read. Maybe a little more than an hour. It's a great graduation gift, either boy or girl. It works both ways. But you'll see that if you go through and you take notes, there's actually the 8 steps that I've actually done in various aspects of my life, and I won't go into that at this point. But there's one point I really want to say is that God's put a dream and a passion on everybody's heart. I truly believe that. And what happens though is it's so easily to get distracted. And so I have in the book focus, follow one course until success. Okay, it's the
Okay.
shiny object syndrome, whatever you want to look at it. And is the thing here is be passionate about following the passion that God put on your heart. That's really what I want to say to everybody, is because I've learned so much. I am 63 and I wish that I understood this when I was much younger. And that's really who the audience is, it will help.
Yeah.
So, but
It's
go
I'm
ahead.
just
I'm
so
sorry.
excited. I'm just so excited that this opportunity is right there for it. It looks like we've got a lot of people excited about it. Melissa says, I definitely want to read this. I want to be able to get this for so many people. It's the man code. We've got shout outs here all over the place going. I mean, way to go, Frank.
Thank
This
you. Thank
is,
you.
the opportunity to really do something new and fresh and really accomplish something at the same time in such a quick read. That's
Hmm.
why an investment in a book is life changing. It's just awesome. So
Yes.
really, really cool. Um, so everybody, hold up that book again. Make sure that you go to we'll put the links in down below. We'll put the Author Academy Award link, and it is page number 1/16, and vote for that book. 2 are better than 1. We will also be able to reach Frank. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
So I'm on Facebook all the time. You could just search my name. It's an open feed. You could also go to Dr. Frank Kendralla, KENDRALLA.com. So this
Okay.
website, I need to do more on there. If you're into photography, I post every single day, literally every single day. Maybe I'll miss one or two. A picture, a new picture that I do, and something inspirational. I am big on inspirational. I follow the Barnabas uh, concept in a second. I'm going to try to lift you up rather than tear you down. And so every single day I
Wonderful.
post something to challenge you, to inspire you, to encourage you. That's the whole premise behind the book. That's what I try to do every single day. If you're on Facebook, I do that every single day. So
Wonderful. So you can't go wrong. We've got some
yeah.
strong, great light here with Frank and some inspiration. So I'll post all of those links down there below for everyone. And I just want to say thank you. Everyone who's come tonight has been incredible. Your comments have been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing and participating. It makes this communication even more meaningful for you to be a part of all of it. So thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.